Centuries ago, the fate of a royal child could shape the destiny of an entire nation. Heirs were groomed from birth, trained for war, diplomacy, and leadership. But what if a royal child was born different? What if that child could not speak clearly, struggled to walk, or found learning difficult? In the eyes of kings and queens, that wasn't just a family tragedy. It was a scandal. Throughout history, many royal children born with disabilities were hidden from the world, institutionalized, or even declared dead while still alive. Their very existence threatened the image of perfection that monarchies relied upon. This is the forgotten story of royal children born with Down syndrome, a genetic condition that was feared and misunderstood for centuries, and the shocking ways their families treated them to protect royal reputation. What is Down syndrome? Down syndrome is caused by the presence of an extra chromosome. Most people have 46 chromosomes, but individuals with Down syndrome have 47. This extra copy of chromosome 21 changes how their bodies and brains develop. It can affect physical appearance, muscle tone, and intellectual abilities. People with Down syndrome often have unique features like almond-shaped eyes, a flatter face, smaller ears, and a single crease across the palm. They may also face health challenges such as heart defects, thyroid conditions, and developmental delays. Today, we know that people with Down syndrome can live full, meaningful lives. But centuries ago, long before medical science understood genetics, these differences were feared. Some believed such births were a curse from God, proof of weak bloodlines, or a sign of moral failing. And in royal families, where heirs were expected to embody strength and perfection, a child with Down syndrome was often seen as unbearable shame. The hidden royals. Nerissa and Katherine Bowes-Lyon were born in 1919 and 1926. They were first cousins of Queen Elizabeth II and part of the extended British royal family. From a young age, it was clear the sisters had severe intellectual disabilities, possibly Down syndrome or a similar condition. Instead of raising them in the royal household, the family placed them in Royal Oldswood Hospital, a long-term institution in Surrey. Once there, they were essentially erased from public memory. Official family records even listed both sisters as deceased, though they were alive and living in the hospital. Nerissa remained there until her death in 1986. Katherine lived almost her entire life at the institution, passing away in 2014. The sisters reportedly received few visits from relatives. Their existence only became public in the 1980s, sparking outrage and debate about how the royal family treated them. Even in the modern 20th century, the fear of scandal outweighed compassion. Princess Alexandrine of Prussia, born in 1915, was the daughter of Crown Prince Wilhelm of Prussia. She likely had Down syndrome, though the term wasn't commonly used at the time. Her story is somewhat different. Her parents chose not to institutionalize her. She stayed with her family, appeared in some photos, and even featured on commemorative postcards. But she was still excluded from royal duties and kept largely out of public view. She lived a quiet, comfortable life and passed away in 1980. Alexandrine's life shows that children with disabilities could be loved privately, but rarely accepted publicly. Anne de Gaulle, born in 1928, was the daughter of Charles de Gaulle, the future president of France. Anne had Down syndrome, and unlike many children of her time, she was raised at home, deeply cherished by her parents, especially her father. Still, her condition was kept private, and she rarely appeared in public. Tragically, Anne died at age 20 from pneumonia. Her passing deeply affected her family, and in her memory, Yvonne de Gaulle founded the Foundation Anne de Gaulle, which supports children with disabilities. The darker past. The 20th century cases we know are only a fraction of history. In medieval and early modern times, royal children with visible differences or intellectual disabilities were often treated far more harshly. Some were abandoned, sent to live in remote estates or hidden in monasteries and convents. Some historians even believe that infants with severe disabilities were quietly killed, though direct evidence is rare because secrecy was absolute. Across Europe and beyond, monarchies depended on an image of divine favor and perfection. A child born imperfect was seen as a threat to the throne. The result was a long legacy of isolation, secrecy, and erasure. A different world today. The world has changed. People with Down syndrome now have access to healthcare, education, and social support that allow them to live long, fulfilling lives. They go to school, have careers, build relationships, start businesses, compete in sports, and inspire their communities. Most importantly, they are seen and loved openly. But we must remember, this progress is very recent. Only a few generations ago, the reality was tragically different. Why their stories matter. The lives of Nerissa and Katherine Bowes-Lyon, Princess Alexandrine of Prussia, and Anne de Gaulle remind us of a time when children with Down syndrome, even those born into power and privilege, were hidden away, denied opportunities, and made invisible. Their names and faces were erased from official history because of fear and stigma. By remembering them now, we give them the dignity and recognition they were once denied. We also remind ourselves that the fight against stigma is ongoing. Society must continue to embrace, not hide, those who are different. Their stories are not just sad royal secrets. They are lessons in compassion, humanity, and progress. Because every child, royal or not, deserves to be loved, to be seen, and to have their story remembered. Echoes of silence, the hidden cost of secrecy. The silence surrounding these royal children was not just a family matter, it reflected the fears of an entire society. For centuries, disability was met with whispers, fear, and shame. Doctors had little understanding. Communities often turned away. Even the most powerful families in the world felt they had no choice but to hide what they could not explain. But that silence came at a cost. Not only were these children denied the chance to live fully. Their families carried generations of quiet sorrow, knowing that love had been sacrificed for appearances. The turning point. The tide only began to turn in the mid to late 20th century, as science, medicine, and social attitudes evolved. Genetic research revealed the true cause of Down syndrome, an extra chromosome, not a curse or a moral failure. Changing laws and disability rights movements challenged the old systems that institutionalized and isolated children. Parents and advocates began to demand visibility, education, and inclusion. By the 1980s and 1990s, society was beginning to see what had always been true. Children with Down syndrome were not tragedies. They were children, with personalities, dreams, and the ability to bring love and joy to the world around them. Royal families today. Modern royal families face a very different world. Public expectations have changed. Secrecy of this kind would no longer go unquestioned. Some monarchies have even embraced advocacy and inclusion. Members of the British royal family now support disability charities, in part shaped by the lessons of their hidden history. Across Europe, royal foundations champion education and healthcare for children with special needs. While these gestures cannot erase the past, they signal a world that is finally moving from shame to acceptance. A legacy of lessons. The stories of Nerissa and Katherine Bowes-Lyon, Princess Alexandrine of Prussia, Anne de Gaulle, are not just royal anecdotes. They are mirrors reflecting how societies once treated difference as danger. They are warnings that prestige and power cannot justify hiding the truth. And they are reminders that compassion must always triumph over fear. The children who should have been seen. Imagine those palaces centuries ago, marble floors, glittering chandeliers, and gold-framed portraits of heirs destined for greatness. And somewhere, in the shadows of that same palace, or in a distant institution, lived a child of the same blood. Smiling, laughing, reaching out for love. While the world was told they did not exist. Their laughter was quiet. Their footsteps left no mark in history. But today, we speak their names. We remember their lives. And we honor the truth that every child, royal or not, deserves to be seen, loved, and celebrated. Because in the end, the measure of any society, or any monarchy, is not its crowns or castles. but how it treats its most vulnerable.